and supported by LSC. We would like to thank our registration partner MapMyIndia, CX Partners Index, Session Partner ShipLight, Silver Partner Pretron, Knowledge Partners Supply Chain Labs, and Industry Partner PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My name is Sriraj Deshmukh, and I will be your host for this session. And we are now moving on to the last session of the day on cargo handling facilities in airways, railways, and shipping, discussing the present state and the future scope, and what should India do next. I would like to introduce you to the speaker of this session, Mr. Zeeshan Mukhi, who is the Director Customer Experience for India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka area at Maersk India. I would request Mr. Zeeshan to take over from here and kickstart the session.
Thanks so much, Sriraj, for and firstly, really exciting to be part of this session and this event hosted by IMAI, and thanks a lot for making me a part of it. It's indeed a privilege to be talking here on this forum. Starting off with the topic, right, on cargo handling facilities in airway, railways, and shipping. I think and what's the current state and what holds for us in the future. To start with, I think it's a huge topic to cover in half an hour time. Of course, it's fairly a fairly big topic to cover. So let me try my best to put perspective in terms of how we firstly what the landscape is on cargo facilities, how has the growth been in the last few years, what are the opportunities, challenges. And then just some suggestions. Of course, it won't be exhaustive list of suggestions, but a couple of suggestions from my side or from our side as Maersk on what the future should look like and what we should be doing as a country. So to start with, just to introduce the landscape and how it looks, and I'm not able to somehow share my move the slide. Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. So I hope you're able to see the slide. So cargo handling, is of course, when you look at it, then it's largely, movement, which are three types. Of course, the physical flow of goods. We've got the flow of documentation that moves along with the goods, of course, because the cargo cannot speak for itself. And then you have the information flow, which is equally important, right, to make sure that everyone's aware of what's happening to their goods. And when you look at it, of course, it starts from the origin, from the factory to some sort of consolidation facility. Let's take the example of maybe garments. They're produced in a factory. They move, either to the port or they move to a consolidation facility. They again move, into put into containers or in less than containers, move to a terminal, get custom cleared, move either by air, sea, or rail over there. And then you have the reverse of it, port and then transportation to DC, fulfillment and store. So of course, this is a very simplistic model of a supply chain, but of course there is many more complexities, depending on the type of commodity. There's of course the complexity of the Incoterms that comes in, which also creates a bit of different models over here. So over the years, as the world has integrated, of course, supply chains have become more and more complex, more and more detailed, more and more, large, both from an in and out perspective. And as we see, I think, many organizations have been able to take advantage of supply chains, to be able to serve their customers, to be able to serve them differently, make profits, and it's a very exciting field, and it's definitely bound to grow. Now, when you look at this, this sort of map, I think the important thing is that, there's, the cargo itself changes, I think, 12 to 15 hands, in between, especially for an exim logistics supply chain, between, from the shipper to the destination. It does move 12 to 15 interchanges that happen over there. And very often than not, you've got anywhere between 15 to 20 parties, different parties that are involved. Right from brokers, customs agents, transportation suppliers, etc. So you've got many different players, ports, airlines, etc. And it is a fairly fair number of people that actually get involved. And then, of course, there are between 10 to 15 different documents that are prepared for every cargo, government-related documents, packing lists, invoices, etc., etc. So therein actually lies, the complexity. So this is just to sort of give a perspective of what really is what that we're talking about, right? And what exactly is the conundrum that every shipper, exporter, or importer faces, right? In terms of what is the complexity to be managed. Now coming back to India, and if of course as we speak, it's about $200 billion, business logistics, and that's fairly high spend. And if you look at it from from now till 2024, then it is projected to go up to 320 billion. So it's fairly large, um, and good solid growth. It's of course a lot of investments coming into logistics, and that's definitely beneficial in line with the growth that the country is experiencing. Now, when it comes to uh, looking at what EXIM looks like, and again, I'm not able to sort of somehow move the slide, but that happens. Yeah. So if you see out of that, and Maersk, of course, and my expertise is largely in the export import space, and that's somewhere around $5 billion. So it's fairly small, very dominant logistics spend. Part of the logistics spend is actually out of 200 billion, 195 billion is actually part of domestic spend, and $5 billion is what we count as that on EXIM containers. And again, so this is also projected to grow to $8.5 billion by 2024. So this is what it looks like. Of this, $1.3 billion is the share of rail, and that's projected to go to around $3.2 billion in 2024. So this is just to give you a little bit of an idea of what does it look like, and of course this is just to set context to some of the discussions that we're going to have in the next coming slides. Yeah. So, what has been the past? And if you look at, what's been the past. So, we've been now at, when you talk about from a ports perspective, then, we are really doing well. We've had a 5% compounded annual growth rate, and we are now at 18 million TEUs. So it's been fairly robust growth, both into India and out of India. It's been some good momentum. East coast of India is, of course, been really successful. And there the compounded annual growth rate is actually much higher, due to various initiatives and infrastructure investments. So from a port perspective, India's growth is actually quite good, and it's 1.5 times the average global port growth. Of course, India still pales in comparison to China when it comes to infrastructure and total throughput. But I'm sure with the various different initiatives, Make in India, and the push on the logistics front, this will of course we hope to continue to see growth within India. Then if you look at it, then from a rail perspective, then we've also seen some shift in the last few years, last couple of years, around 4% of road traffic moving to rail. So there's been some investments in rail, most notably some of the investments in the in privatization of rail, container rail movements, also investments in inland container depots in hinterland, and warehousing, which has led to, and consolidation facilities that has led to increase in rail, and that has been fairly positive as well. We've seen PPP model succeeding in India, and we've got some good examples of private ports actually been contributing towards the growth of facilities. And then in the air, of course, we've also seen some good growth, now in the last 1-2 years coming from vaccine, pharma aid and relief, and we've seen some good development on charter capacity growth. Of course, it's a sector that is impacted largely due to the passenger traffic not being there, but we've seen some very solid growth in the charter market when it comes to airlines. When it comes to opportunities and challenges, and if you look at it from a from an information flow perspective, then I think the opportunities is of course to start with, that the startup and the log tech space is quite upbeat, and we've had of obviously a couple of days of presentation, and you can really see so many different organizations coming in to solve problems and logistics problems. And of course, logistics being it's a big space with so many, like I mentioned in the earlier slide, so many issues, so many challenges. Then of course, there's lots to solve for. We can see some good focus from the government on digital India, and that definitely helps. There is a definite push from the government to digitize as much as possible, and that's something that is very, very positive and a great opportunity for us. When we look at customs, then we are also seeing more and more digitization happening over there. We are seeing more and more processes coming in online. We are eagerly waiting for the SCMT regulations, which obviously will be a game changer in terms of being able to move faster, further digitize our processes. And then, of course, we've got some, the national grid that the government is coming up with, the data centralization. A lot of these initiatives hold a lot of opportunities for us. And look at uh, from in terms of challenges, then definitely we still have a lack of standards. We don't have an integrated model. We still have varied vendor different documents that we need to fill, and what that creates is complexity, and what that needs then creates is systems processes to manage that complexity. So there's definitely that gap. That is a big challenge in when we look at India today. When we look at the physical flow, then the opportunities, of course, are, like I said, the public-private partnerships. India has got a great model for this. It actually is working. We've seen it succeed in so many places, and we can see more and more of this coming. And this is definitely good for logistics, space to be able to create facilities very rapidly, to create infrastructure quickly. I think that is something that is very, very positive. We are seeing rail double stacking, the DFC coming up, and that's going to allow us to move. Just for example, today on rail, we, for example, move 90 20-foot containers in one train. In the coming years, we are going to be able to move double stack. That means on top of that, so 180, and then we're also able to move larger trains on the DFC. So that is going to be a big game changer in terms of reduction of cost, and that's really going to help us help increase the share of rail in the total flow. We are seeing lots and lots of airports coming up, many small airports coming up. We've seen some improvements, significant improvements in handling facilities. We're also seeing now permissions where we've got ICDs getting integrated with airports, and so that's a combination of a facility in hinterlands where you can actually move cargo by rail, sea, air. So we're seeing that happening, and then of course we are seeing a significant e-commerce boom, which is actually really helping, especially the warehousing sector, and is pushing the industry to organize, and that's having a very, very positive effect. So these are some of the very, very big opportunities that we see. However, when we look at on the other side challenges, then we still have so many ports, which are disjointed. As a shipping line, large shipping lines, we always prefer to come in one port and load as much as you can out. Rather than having to call 4 different or 5 different ports into in a country or on one coast of the country. We also would like to see some good. We would also like to see some good connectivity of road, rail, air, and because that obviously makes it a lot easier for shippers to also plan their supply chains. We are, although the port growth has been fairly large, fairly good, we still have, we're still not able to accommodate some of the largest ships, like countries like China are able to do. And this is, of course, due to the depth required, the infrastructure required, and like I said, the whole connectivity required to be able to fill those ships. So those are some of the still opportunities that they're still not able to take advantage of. Of course, means lower cost of handling, and that of course then gives the benefit. Similarly, we still do have a higher ratio of transshipment, and that's because a lot of the ships are, a lot of the cargo from India connects on small ships and goes into and then is connected in ports like Singapore or Colombo onto bigger ships, and that of course is a portion of cause of concern because obviously it's more expensive, adds to cost. And lastly, we've got a higher share of road versus rail, and this is of course from an environmental perspective not very helpful, but also it doesn't also the we still see in many pockets road is actually cheaper than rail, and that's because the infrastructure difference, roads have been built fairly aggressively, and rail is still taking some time to catch up. So that's a bit of a challenge, and we hope that change in the coming days. Yeah. What did call ID? Yeah, call him, please. I think I had some challenges on my network. Can you all hear me now? Okay, thank you so much. My apologies for the issue. Yeah, and then just moving on to the last slide, and just give me a second. There you go. Okay, yeah. So what do we do next? And my apologies for the loss of network. Yeah. So I was on the point about the opportunities and challenges on the physical flow, and really what do we do next? I think one of the things is that we still have a very high cost of logistics, and the government of course is very much focused on it, but this is one area where we really need to improve significantly to be more competitive as a country. We need to bring the overall cost of logistics down, and the way to do it, of course, is to be intelligent about infrastructure. India's, of course, investments in infrastructure is very high, but a lot of it is all over the place, and it requires a lot more coordination and in terms of how it is being done. So good example is about hub and spoke, so that we are able to sort of have much more of double stack trains and trains running with full capacity. Similarly, making sure that we have ports which are able to load significantly larger loads, compared to smaller ones, so we can get the big ships in. So some of these things, and then again, the other issue is also the domestic and exim, which actually work, in silos. So today we see opportunities in which how we can actually get more consolidation, which will allow players to actually optimize costs, and that's where significant opportunity lies. What the need of the hour is to really have logistics hubs, large logistics hubs, which are able to cater to significantly large loads. Today we have much smaller facilities. Of course, there are market conditions, but we really need to uh, create the right environment to be able to invest in these large logistics hubs. Similarly, then on technology, we've we've started some good work on the national grid and on logistics data bank. This is where we need to increase the density of the readers. Today, LDB has readers across the country, but mainly focused on NH8, Northwest, and here we see this as a game changer, and we would like to see much more happening in this space. Uh, Another area on technology, and since this is the IMAI forum, is really about how do you actually integrate some of these systems much better. Today, there are so many different providers, so many different systems that each player uses, and that lack of standardization is a bit costly. You've got to integrate every single thing and stitch each and every single thing together. A little bit of standardization would really help us. And of course, blockchain is another technology which is also extremely promising in this regard, especially on the background of the amount of documentation share and by the very virtue that it can actually make it secure for all players in a transaction. And lastly, like I mentioned, the customs SCMT implementation, we see this as a big game changer. If that comes across, it will significantly improve the speed at which information can be shared. It will be in digital forms, and it will also allow exporters, importers to file their documentation much more in advance, take advantage, and make it more predictable. So these are some of the things that I see as opportunities within India, in terms of what we can actually do next. We now have a couple of questions in the on the chat, and I'll try and sort of answer them to the best that I can. The first one is about what are some of the ways in which AI can be leveraged to increase the process of cargo handling. I think this is definitely a great question, and it is one area one area which with one technology which is actually very promising today. We see the role of AI to really improve predictability for players to be able to sort of present information in new ways which can actually reduce cost. Uh, one of the things, like I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, is about standardization of data, standardization of information, having it in similar formats, similar places, making it easier and interconnected. We see that if once that happens, then we can definitely leverage technology like AI much better to be able to predict and match demand with supply a lot better. So that is something that I completely agree. These are some good ways. Some good examples would be also around matching, for example, empty containers to where they are required. Today, we still hear, from an exporter perspective that they don't have empty containers available. From a shipping line perspective, they are in the wrong place, and it's very difficult for shipping lines to know, okay, where the demand is or how the demand is going to look like. So a lot of these processes are manual, and we definitely see the use of AI as a big game changer in this. And we got another question around, does the privatization of airports have any impact on the management of the cargo? Uh, I I would say, number one, in general, I think privatization has helped us build capacity quickly, and I think that's been the big game changer with privatization, that we've seen ability to raise capital, ability to invest, moving much faster, and this has been a success story. It doesn't necessarily change the technology much, but it is more. It just speeds up the process of investment, and that's something that we've seen that. So it's been a successful model for us. Then we've got question number 3. As you said, rail lags behind other modes of transport in this subject matter. What can be done to improve the situation? Definitely, I think one, while I shared, I think we still see 4% growth on EXIM. We've also seen some growth in domestic. I think there has been investments that have happened. Of course, like I said, in the opening deregularization of railways, having more and more private players coming in. So that's been some success. But one of the facts is really the cost that rail offers, right? I think that really needs to become more and more competitive. And one of the big game changers will be the double stack and the DFC coming in. The other is about how do we actually match loads, on the head haul and the back haul, so that you're able to sort of balance out, rail movements, and that requires some planning, some good data management, and to optimize rail wagons. Another area which is actually needs significant push is domestic rail, where we see a lot of opportunity. Where to really increase the penetration of that. That's of course good for the environment as well. And here we see more and more shippers, exporters coming on board. Another area for rail where we see tremendous potential, of course, is also on cross-border. There are some recent developments with the neighboring countries, with Nepal, with Bangladesh, and this is really going to help us, uh, you know, increase the pace of movement on rail. When we talk about containerized transport and rail, then the big game changer is the integration with the shipping lines and the export import loadings. And this is something that as Maersk we've tried a bit and we've been a bit successful. So these are some of these things that I would say are can be done. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening in, and thanks so much to the IMAI for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for an engaging presentation. And a special thanks to you for making up time and coming here uh, and making this possible. So, on that note, we are concluding the Logistics Tech Conference, Transforming Indian Logistics via Technology, presented by IAMAI and Here Technologies, powered by Pando Corporation, brought to you by Grey Orange, and supported by LSC. We would like to thank our registration partner, MapMy India, CX Zendex, session partner Shiplight, silver partner Pretron, knowledge partner Supply Chain Labs, and industry partner PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We believe that the conference has added value to the professional lives of every person attending it. I would like to thank everyone once again for participating and making this happen. The videos of this event will be available on demand, and all the registered delegates will be updated about the same. And we shall keep you updated about our upcoming events as well. You can visit our website, which reads www.iamai.in, to get more information on about our upcoming events and be partners with us too. Thank you everyone once again, and have a great evening.